You're watching News 24 Live. Welcome to our Monday morning sports wrap. It's Monday the 17th of August. I'm joined in studio once again by editor Garen Lambie and chief writer Rob Howing from Sport24. Gents, good morning and thanks very much for coming in.
Hi, Nick.
A much better performance from the Springboks, Rob. Do you think they've done enough in terms of testing combinations now? No more practice time until the World Cup. It's do or die.
Yeah, the first thing I suppose I've got to do is eat a bit of humble pie. I was unusually pessimistic going into this game. I actually thought that Argentina were going to be might just prevail against a very inexperienced and sort of mix and match looking Boks side. As it turned out, the Boks were thoroughly motivated for the game. I thought they just looked as though they'd actually finally hit the on switch, which they hadn't done the previous week, and actually put the game to bed reasonably early when you think about it, because they did score two good tries. The only disappointment perhaps was that in the second half they went to sleep a little bit. They had the opportunity to sort of put a nail in the coffin. You could tell that they'd sort of silenced the crowd to a good degree. I thought the crowd, I mean obviously I wasn't there, but from the television perspective it almost seemed as if they'd done the business of sort of getting rid of that passion that we know comes from a sort of a hopeful Argentinian crowd. And
that Habana try, I didn't even realize was a try because there was just no response from the crowd.
Yeah, apart from the 5 Springbok spectators present, perhaps. But yeah, it was. I thought a very encouraging display. As you say, there was still a lot of experimentation going on. So it's difficult to say, oh well, that was a magnificent performance by the Springbok 8 best team, because it wasn't. I still think that only 5 or 6 members of that starting side are actually going to be starters come the major World Cup game. So it's a slightly confused state of affairs still. We're still not absolutely sure just how good the Springbok game is. And if anything, some people might say, well, it's almost sort of muddied the waters a bit, because now Heineke Meyer's got to grapple with a few issues after Saturday. Because, for instance, Pat Lambie really put his hand up. I've always been slightly Pollard inclined, but I've got to say, I thought Lambie had a magnificent game on Saturday, possibly enough to have given him the inside lane for the first major game, or whichever game the Boks treat as the first major game at the World Cup. So at least plenty of sort of scope for choice there. I thought someone like Lwazi Mvovo was a bit of a surprise package. Interesting that he and Brian Habana combined well. Mvovo wore the right wing jersey, but actually played on the left, and Habana on the right. And I've seen Habana play some very good games for South Africa on the right. So not out of the question that might just become a decent combination, considering there have been some issues. JP Peterson, not that convincing, not as good as he had been sort of 5 or 6 years ago. Cornel Hendricks, also someone who's kind of been a bit of a fitful member of the team. Not quite sure about who really deserves the right to that wing position. So maybe somebody like Mvovo will sort of sneak in. And some of the fringe players did well, which is encouraging, because at least we can perhaps start to feel a bit better about our sort of bench and reserve choices again for the World Cup. So, definitely the positives outweighed the negatives. I don't think we should be too cynical about the performance. A lot of people saying, the All Blacks would have blown them away by 50 points. The fact is, South Africa did the job pretty well in what could have been very hostile circumstances, and they put Argentina to bed by 14 points, which is the best result we've had in Argentina for about 10 or 11 years. So let's look at it from that point of view. Hats off to the guys.